Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. This is 8-Star Anime along with Denzicaster Mix-Up. I like it. So actually, to be honest, it's the first time I think we've actually found something where we could mix it up.
More or less. Marking my second appearance on 8-Star Anime. Apparently it has to have giant robots or something related to Tokusatsu before I'm willing to show my face.
Apparently so. So like I said, I'm Chris Brown. We got Denzicaster's Mike Brown. No relation. Yep. You knew it was coming. And we just got watching the Netflix. Is it original or Netflix associate?
It's done in association with Netflix. It's called Godzilla. There's two titles for it.
Is there?
Yeah, it's either Godzilla Monster Planet or Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. And I guess really it's just whichever one you think sounds cooler.
Kind of like that second one a little better. It just kind of sounds a little more...
Planet of the Monsters?
Yeah.
In Japan, it apparently is Godzilla Part 1, Planet of the Monsters. I like it too, because it reminds me of the original Godzilla title in the U.S., King of the Monsters. So,
which makes sense.
Yeah, I did some research on this before we watched it, because this thing's got a lot of Tokusatsu connections. Some that I think you'll appreciate. So, officially... This is the 32nd Godzilla feature film, the 30th in Japan. First one that's ever been animated. There's been some Godzilla animation before. There was a decent cartoon series that came out here in the U.S. That was the only good thing that came out of Columbia's attempt at Godzilla. And then there was another one, like I think in the 70s, that had Godzuki in it and was just horrible. But this particular movie... Directed by a guy named Kobun Shizuno, who, near as I can tell, this is the first thing he's done movie-wise that wasn't Detective Conan.
So that's kind of an odd change of pace.
Yeah. He's directed Detective Conan movies one a year from 2011 to 2017.
All right.
The screenwriter is Gen Urobuchi, which is a familiar name for me because... Gim Urobuchi was the writer of Kamen Rider Gaim. So, I'm in immediately.
Yes.
But for anime fans, he's the guy behind Madoka Magica, among other things.
Indeed.
So, even some of the voice talent was familiar. The guy that plays our hero in this, who is a complete nut job.
No kidding.
Is played by Mamoru Miyano, who has been in, even I recognize the names of some of this stuff. He's been in Death Note, Soul Eater, Wolf's Rain.
I thought he looked familiar.
Looked familiar. It was an animation. It was a pic. You don't know what the guy looks like.
You know what I meant.
Sound familiar.
You know what I meant.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, although you could be... You could be forgiven for saying he looks familiar because he's also Ultraman Zero from the Ultra Galaxy movies. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So far we've got Ultraman and Kamen Rider both somehow involved in a Godzilla movie.
Yay.
Let's see here. We've got some guys here that have been in Final Fantasy. Let's see here. Our female lead, played by Kana Hanazawa from, let's see here, Angel Beats. He's going to know these things.
Yeah.
Tokyo Ghoul, Castletown, Dandelion.
Tokyo Ghoul, I reckon, that voice, it's a voice that's kind of like blends in sometimes, but Tokyo Ghoul is one of the good ones. I could probably tell you right now, she probably plays the main character in that one too.
And then, I'm actually going to find the cast list because I want to see who this guy played. And Adam Bendwald, who is another one of the central characters, played by Yuki Kaji. The only reason I was going to purposely figure out who he was is because he's in My Hero Academia.
Yes.
So,
I recognize that.
And One Punch Man.
Mm-hmm.
So, and...
Seven Deadly Sins, I think, too.
Yeah. And then
there's a lot that he's done.
Yeah, and the music in this one done, which, the only reason I bring up music is because a lot of people who are Godzilla aficionados love to know who does the music for the movies. Takayuki Hattori, who did Great Teacher Onizuka, the live action series, which I'm actually a huge fan of, but has done a number of anime, but most notably, for me, he did Martian Successor Nadesco, which is a fantastic anime series. But he was also the guy behind the music for Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Ooh. So there's our actual Godzilla pedigree in a Godzilla movie.
There we go.
So outside of a bunch of Kamen Riders and Ultramans and other stuff.
Yeah. Well, it is H-Star Anime, so we got to get something in there. So since this is kind of your little project, how about you hand up the synopsis on this one?
So we have a proud tradition now on Denzicaster, which I will now extend to my appearance here on 8-Star Anime. If you'd like to know the full synopsis for this movie, Wikipedia that crap. But the long story
we'll give you the cliff notes.
Yeah. The long story short is Godzilla showed up, Godzilla wrecked shit. Humanity, for the first time ever in a Godzilla movie, got smart and said, to hell with it, we're out. And more or less abandons Earth because they realized there's no way for them to actually stop Godzilla. The only thing that I found really interesting about that is the movie implies, and in its opening sort of exposition montage, it implies that Godzilla's not the first kaiju.
Yeah,
which is very awkward because in most versions of the Godzilla origin story, Godzilla is himself the first kaiju and everyone else follows after him. It's kind of like he's Batman and then all the villains show up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or this one, it's more like we had all these other kaijus and all this stuff show up, and then Godzilla just happens to be the one that we're like,
yeah,
nothing we can do.
It was as if humanity was like, yeah, we can handle 90% of this, but we ain't got that. So humanity leaves with the assistance of some aliens, which not the first time aliens have shown up in Godzilla, so that's accepted. And humanity basically travels the stars for some 22 years trying to find another planet capable of supporting life, and they fail miserably. Morale is at an all-time low. Resources are slim to none. They've gotten to a point that they're jettisoning the old in order to preserve resources for the younger and prolong their chances. Which pisses off one guy who happens to used to have been an Ultraman.
Our main
the actor. Named Haru Sasaki. Captain Sasaki. I'm not going to...
Yeah, I'm about to say it's much easier to say it that way.
So Captain Sasaki basically has developed a plan. He was there when Godzilla attacked. He knows what he looks like, and he has spent all this time developing a plan to actually kill Godzilla. Spoilers, it worked. But they discover when they do travel back to Earth that one of the things they knew is they would be in a time warp. Well, what was 22 years for humanity was 20,000 years on Earth. And so the entire planet has evolved to an almost unrecognizable state. Mm-hmm. They do a really good job of making you feel like humanity is essentially now an alien species on its own world, or as if Earth itself is now an alien planet to the human race. But that's the general synopsis. Godzilla shows up. Godzilla wrecks shit. Mm-hmm. For only the second time that I'm aware of in a Godzilla movie. The first one was GMK. That I'm aware of. Humanity actually pulls it off and I should take that back. Third time, because they do beat Godzilla in the very first movie.
Yeah, they do.
So they're like 3 for 30 at this point. They actually managed to beat Godzilla, and then they find out, oh crap, that wasn't actually Godzilla. And as they're celebrating and so on, basically a mountain explodes, and a Godzilla that is bigger than any Godzilla that has ever existed in the history of anything shows up and proceeds to just make everyone crap themselves.
Oh, yeah.
they make reference that he's 300 meters tall and growing.
But I was like, damn, how big is he gonna get?
For the record, I think, without breaking the laptop back out, I think Godzilla in the Legendary Pictures version was supposed to be 110 or 120 meters tall. And then, like, Shin Godzilla was slightly taller than this. So this Godzilla is anywhere from 2 to 3 times bigger than any Godzilla that's ever existed.
And you can tell that in this animation.
Yeah. The original Godzilla from the old 50s movie was only, I think, supposed to be 60 meters tall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this thing is massive.
But this whole movie's... I was like, damn, from like almost beginning to end. Because there was a lot of surprises, a lot of things I was not expecting from this film, the way they were presenting it.
Okay.
Especially since this is supposed to be part one of what?
It's supposed to be a trilogy.
Trilogy? Okay. Yeah. So it's the way they set it up, and I'm thinking that, well, there's no way they're gonna, spoil us and have, spoiler alert, Godzilla defeated.
Mm-hmm.
But they do, and I'm like, well, so much for parts 2 and 3 until, mountain.
Yeah, little did you know this was the Dusty finish.
Yes. And so I was like, but overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. For what we got, but if I had to pick anything in particular that I liked, it's probably, I did like the animation style. The animation style was pretty much 100%. It was not pretty much. It was 100% CG from beginning to end. A lot of more almost close to cell shading style.
Almost like a really realistic shell
shading.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed it like that. I thought that was probably a good way of animation without being this kind of more 2D computer animated, and then have Godzilla be this. It would throw everything off, in my opinion. So having it all the same makes sense.
Well, at first, when we first started watching the movie, I remember making the comment, I don't know how I feel about the way this looks. From a completely objective standpoint, it's very well executed and beautifully done. Anything past that is your mileage may vary. And initially, I didn't know what I really felt about it, because it looked like they were trying to do like hand-drawn emotions and whatnot on these CG bodies. And that's why the best thing I come up with is hyper-realistic cell shading. And I wasn't really 100% sold on it until we saw Godzilla. And the reason I say that is because I've seen a crap ton of Godzilla movies. And one of the struggles whenever you have giant anything on what's supposed to be a human scale is weight. Is making it actually seem like it's that big through the weight and the way it moves and so on.
Yeah.
And the way that's achieved a lot of times in, say, a Super Sentai or a lot of Tokusatsu movies is by slowing down the footage, basically, to make it look like they're moving slower than they actually are, but maintaining a natural movement.
Yeah.
I think if they had tried that with traditional animation here, it would have fell on its face.
Yes.
The CG actually gave it weight and mass. Even so much that the smaller Godzilla that we see them fight throughout the movie had a sense of size that was dwarfed by the larger one when he showed up, even though you don't see him on screen at the same time.
You knew this other one was going to be massive.
Yeah. So, visually, I enjoyed it. Once I saw the monster, I was like, cool. And the thing about Godzilla in this is the design of Godzilla borrowed heavily from several different past designs.
Yeah.
It almost felt like the greatest hits Godzilla design. The dorsal fins carried on. The original sort of had a maple leaf shape to the fins.
Yeah.
And you could catch that a little bit in this, which I liked. The size and overall build was very reminiscent of the legendary Godzilla. We mentioned that a lot. But the head was more in keeping with the traditional Toho Godzillas, because in the Toho movies, the head is usually a larger size compared to the rest of the body. Legendary really shrunk the head down.
Yeah.
And so the head piece was going. By the way, if I apologize for my voice, I'm getting over a bad cold. Probably should have told you that before I invited you. No,
got him.
I'm good. It's just the voice at this point. But yeah, I really enjoyed the look of Godzilla. The only thing maybe that threw me off a little bit is when we did see the big gigantic one. The scales on Godzilla, he looks almost like he's made out of rock.
But 20,000 years.
Yeah.
I can see that kind of being a thing. Now, overall, what did you take out of this? I mean, what's your favorite gimmick out of this?
I would say I really appreciated the fact that they actually showed them trying to come up with a strategy to beat Godzilla. It's one of the things that's often overlooked in a lot of Godzilla movies. In most Godzilla movies where it's the humans versus Godzilla, it's usually more like, what toys do we have in the toy box? What can we throw at him and hope it works? Here we actually see a strategy developed, and they try to enact it. And that happens in a handful of the Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
The Heisei era Mechagodzilla movie is one. The Millennium era Mechagodzilla movies, which there were two of, that's another pair where that happens. GMK, it's humanity that actually saves the day at the end of the movie. And of course the first one, the original Gojira. But a lot of the rest of the time it's either, hey, we hope these aliens do it for us, or hey, we hope this other monster can stop him, or Godzilla's our ally. And so I like the fact that there's actually a plan. I really dug the sci-fi setting, because that's something Godzilla's never really been able to do. They took advantage of the fact that this is animated. They have no production cost that they have to abide by. You could not build that ship in a traditional Godzilla movie. It wouldn't happen. The closest that I can think of you ever really get to a true sci-fi Godzilla movie is Final Wars.
Yeah.
And most people hated it. And it's actually, I think when I did my Godzilla top 3 for the Millennium era, I think I actually put it as either it wasn't number 1. I think I made it number 2 or 3. Because it's fun.
Yeah.
And Don Fry as the captain is awesome. But
that's what they needed in this film.
Yeah, they needed more Don Fry. But yeah, I really enjoyed the sci-fi setting, and I enjoyed the planning, and I enjoyed that even animated, it felt like a Godzilla movie.
Gotcha. I mean, that's the way to look at it. To be honest, if I had to pick a downfall, it's the fact that it's just the way a lot of it was executed. Like, for a 3-parter, I'm thinking, like, there has to be something bigger. There has to be something more. And granted, I thought the surprise at the end was truly in great fashion for a Godzilla film. But I just felt like, man, they're really rushing this thing. Like, man, they're kicking ass. They're doing good. I'm like, what the hell? So I expected, something to go wrong.
Right.
And, of course, it doesn't happen until pretty much the end. But yeah. And I just think everything was just running too smooth. I think our main character, to be honest, our main character realistically should be talked about a little bit more, because this wasn't a guy who just had ambitions of, I think I found a way to beat Godzilla. We can go do this. It was more of, no, Godzilla's the reason everything's been taken away from me away from us. He's got to go. He has this unhealthy obsession about wanting to kill Godzilla, to the point where shoot, he's willing to sacrifice as many people as he can just to get it done.
Oh, he does jail time for it.
Yes.
He sits there and says at one point, with only 4,000 people, and that's humans and aliens that are in this convoy together, with only 4,000 lives left, he says it'll take 600 people to do it and doesn't bat an eye. He's Captain Ahab.
Yeah.
He's Captain Ahab and Godzilla's Moby Dick. That's that part of the story. And realistically, I think that story progresses because he hasn't caught the white whale.
No, he hasn't.
The white whale came out of the mountain at the end of the movie.
It's aha.
It's only about an hour long for this one.
Yeah.
I would be very interested to watch. I probably never will. But I'd be very interested to watch, once all three parts are out, all three in one sitting. As if it were one cohesive movie. But with that said, I think where a lot of people are going to scream bloody murder is where a whole bunch of casual fans scream bloody murder at Godzilla, which is he didn't fight any other monsters. Where was this one or that one or the other one? Well, look, they name checked Mechagodzilla.
Yep.
You on screen on like a little caption, they name check Hydra. Mm-hmm. You see it. You see Ibra at one point in a silhouette.
Yep.
There's a couple of them that you don't really recognize. I'm fairly certain I saw Rodan. There was a big jellyfish at one point that I'm fairly certain is not a traditional Godzilla monster. But with that said, if you go back and you look at the first Godzilla movie of every era, whether it's the original one in 54, whether it's Godzilla 84, whether it's Godzilla 2000 is the exception to the rule. Whether it's even the crappy Geno, Godzilla in name only, or the legendary Godzilla, or Shin Godzilla, or now this one. Mm-hmm. Godzilla is the only giant monster.
Exactly.
So the fight is Godzilla versus humanity. And here they really hit on that, and they bring a lot of the different subtexts in from the various Godzilla features and mythoses, where it's an evolution of something, to its evil incarnate, to it's a force of nature and it's God's way of punishing humanity for getting arrogant.
Yeah.
It brings a lot of those in. So I'm really, really interested to see where they go. This was paced like a Godzilla movie. There was a whole lot of talking, and then the action was all on the back end. So they paced it like a Godzilla movie, sure enough. But I think a lot of people's major complaint about it will be, well, he was the only monster. Well, I suspect, and I haven't read ahead or anything, but they name-checked Mechagodzilla too many times.
Yeah, for that to not be a possibility in one of the other films.
So I'm gonna say, having not read ahead, that Mechagodzilla probably is in the next movie. It only makes sense that you're gonna have some other giant something in the subsequent movies. So, but if there was anything I'll be honest. If there's anything I didn't like, it was Sasaki.
That's what I'm saying.
Because Sasaki was about as close to a Mary Sue as I've seen in a Godzilla movie in a really long time. Old boy did no wrong.
No.
In the entire film. He had this big grandiose plan to try and stop something that they dropped 40 megatons of nukes on and couldn't kill.
Which, I was about to say, how? I'm about to say, they mentioned specifically, like I said, spoiler warning, 150 nuclear warheads shot this thing.
Yeah. And couldn't kill it.
King couldn't kill it. And yet, for some reason, this guy truly believes he's found a solution.
He found a way. So, and then you just see the look of shock and horror on his face when the real Big G shows up at the end of the movie with powers that you've not ever seen Godzilla use before.
That was interesting, actually.
I will say he has the one. I think they called it an ancillary wave, but
Yeah.
basically it's like a pulse that goes out. That's been in a previous Godzilla movie. Don't ask me which one, I couldn't tell you, but I've seen it. The one I found interesting was basically the supersonic tail whip,
attack. Yeah.
which was like, in the back of my head I hear sonic boom.
As nothing really explodes, as everything just kind of shuts down. And just
no. When he did the tail whip,
Yeah.
trees fall over, explosions in various places. No, crap went south.
That went south, but most of the stuff just kind of went. That was far enough away that they just lost power. That's how the shockwave worked. And so,
but I'm looking forward to see what they do after this. They've got 2 more movies. The next one, I saw the title for it. I think it's like Fight at the City of the Edge or something. It looks like a Harlan Ellison Star Trek story for the title. That was the first thing I thought of was City at the Edge of Forever, but that's not what it's called.
No.
It's just close. But I'm looking forward to see what they do with it because they did a reasonably good job for the first one. It's a Godzilla movie, all right, and when you stop and think about it as a Godzilla fan, that's what you came for. That's what they advertised, and so.
Yeah.
May this year is when the next one comes out.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if that's the Japanese release, because this did get a very limited release in Japanese theaters.
Gotcha.
Then it wound up on Netflix worldwide. So I don't know if May 2018 is the Japanese theater date or if it's the Netflix worldwide date.
Okay, gotcha. So, ladies and gentlemen, our 8-star anime showcase has officially entered its second season, and we have changed things up for our rating system. Instead of doing 4 different categories, giving everything at max 2-star, minimum 0 stars, we decided to go ahead and cut into 2 different categories. One with our tangibles, such as our sound, our sound, our video, things that actually, could change over time while you're watching a film, stuff like that. In its own category, going from 0 to 4.
Okay.
And then most of the intangible stuff that realistically isn't going to change, like your basic storyline and your own personal enjoyment for the most part.
Okay.
And that will be also 0 to 4 stars. You're still getting your 8 stars, folks. However, we're now kind of giving a little more leeway towards...
V and A get 4, and S and E get 4. That's the way this works.
Correct.
Okay.
And so the idea behind it is so that way if we're really on the edge of whether or not to give something a higher score or lower score, we definitely have somewhere in between.
Yeah, some leeway. Okay.
Some leeway. So we did talk about a lot of our audio and a little bit of our visuals towards this film. Personally, like I said before, visually I think having it all in 3D the way they did served the movie a lot of justice for what we got out of it. In terms of audio, since this is still the Japanese subtitle release, the odds that we'll see this in English. And
it is.
It will be.
They did it. Like, there's an English version. We could have watched it in English if we
Oh,
wanted.
there is an English version. Okay, we just went with
didn't.
subtitle. Okay. Well, in any case, I thought the voices were pretty much on top of things. I did feel the emotion amongst the characters based on what we heard and everything. And giving Godzilla its traditional roar, I thought I really liked. But overall, it's between just the regular sound bites between characters and our average visuals, it's not the best I think it could have been, or best they could have done for what they had. Because especially a lot of the music was overshadowed by all the, explosions and everything else. So you didn't really. The only real emphasis of holy crap, things are going down is the fact that yes, there's action and they're actually fighting for their lives at this point. So I'd have to give it a 3. Just shy of 4. I mean, I think they could have done something spectacular for it, but I think a lot of the... Because a lot of the dialogue, in my opinion, kind of throws off a lot of... Kind of gives tension, but also takes back depending on who's talking, especially our main character.
Right.
So...
Now, watch your boy screw the pooch on this one.
How so?
Because I've talked about how much I enjoy this movie. Two and a half. And here's why.
Okay.
Visually, I think the movie is very well done visually. However, especially when you get to the big fight at the end with Godzilla, shaky cam and animation never works.
I hate that.
And they really tried to do the shaky cam, and they have these really cool speeder bikes that are acting more or less as fighter planes, and they try to whip around with them and fight, and it just is distracting as all get out and gets kind of rough, and at certain points it just becomes the animation equivalent of bullet hell in an old Capcom shooter. There's just too much crap going on. So there's that. Beyond that, and the rocky appearance of Godzilla in places that just that element of the design didn't work for me. So there's that. On the sound end, I didn't necessarily mind the explosions. The voice acting was fine. I knocked half a point off on the visuals. I take a full point away because they screwed the pooch on one thing. 1 hour. You had one job, sound team, music guys.
Yep.
You had one job.
I know what you're talking about.
One. And that was, and here was the moment. Mountain explodes, big billowing of smoke, and you see the head emerge. Not one time does the Godzilla theme play in this whole movie.
Yep.
You had one job. One job.
That.
It would have been so easy to, as the smoke clears and you see the head, bum, 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 bum. That's all you needed. You really just needed the opening of it. And no, nothing. So
I do have to admit, because when I do have to admit, it was as climactic as that was supposed to be. Mm. It almost was anticlimactic because they didn't really truly emphasize. They didn't capitalize on that.
I'll show you something.
Yeah.
For all this movie's faults, and it's got some.
Oh yeah.
At least they knew when to hit Go-Go Power Rangers.
Exactly.
Just saying, and I like that movie too, for the record. But at least they knew when. The Get Smart movie with Steve Carell, they knew when to play the bloody theme song.
It's just one of the... I know it. I don't know what their excuse for not putting the theme song in at any point in this film, but I do have to put that.